Okay, everybody. I apologize for running late. It is the 19th, Friday, and the market is closed. It's been a somewhat volatile day. There was a quadruple witching that took place today. I mentioned earlier that has to do with options on indexes, as well as futures on those indexes, individual stock futures, as well as single stock futures, as well as options on individual stocks. So all that took place today, and so the market definitely behaved in a manner that was a little more volatile in terms of and more volumes than normal because of this event that occurs as infrequently as it does. And so right now, I would say that, let me see here, the market, it kind of finished where it started. I think the small caps were up 0.5% to 0.75%. I think they finished up maybe about 1% on the day. Let me take a look here. I just want to point out a couple highlights. And so, yes, the small caps ended up finishing up 75 basis points. The NASDAQ was pretty much flat. All the other indexes were flat. The treasuries obviously are still under, they didn't really rally from the rout that took place yesterday on the treasuries. Hey, Ronan, hold on one second. Treasuries only rallied about 60 basis points after a pretty big sell-off yesterday. And so, interest rates are the biggest driver, folks, of what's going to move the markets. If interest rates continue to creep up, every asset price, as well as the growth rates embedded in all asset prices, will be impacted. So I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I'm going to say it again. Rates are still very low by historic standards. Valuations are very high by historical standards. The valuation of the economy and the markets as relative to the size of the GDP, the gross domestic product, that ratio is also very high. So you have rates that might be going up, growth rates that might be slowing, valuations at all-time highs. I can't come out and say it directly for regulatory reasons, but I really suggest that you should look into taking on less risk if you are invested in the markets. Go back to where we were a year ago and see if there's anything that you should be lightening up on and so forth. I do think it's extremely worthwhile to do so, and I do think that will be beneficial. Okay, so, CDC came out today and said that they're going to reduce social distancing rules to 3 feet if you're wearing a mask. Guys, I got news for you. It's been a year. I don't follow any social distancing rules. And I think I've been fine. And so I think some of this stuff is overblown. You got to do what you got to do. But I'm just telling you, some of this stuff, there's a saying that, we have an immune system for a reason, that our defenses are there to battle any type of bugs that we get. And, I think that if you use common sense and wash your hands, eat properly, get enough sleep to keep your immune system strong. And, I think our bodies are pretty remarkable at keeping us safe. One other thing I would mention is on the CDC's website, when I'm reading things like this, it kind of gets under my skin. The CDC, it listed the 34 leading causes of death in this country. I pulled all that data down, and as of 2018, this was before this whole virus thing hit, and there were something like 600,000 unclassified deaths that occurred in 2018, kind of like the U voters, if you guys recall that whole fiasco. And as a result of these 600,000 unclassified deaths in the United States, I'm really looking forward to seeing what the data looks like in 2019, 2020 by the CDC to see what those numbers look like of the U deaths, the unclassified deaths that are not attributable to anything. Did those numbers fall precipitously and move into some virus column is what I'm really curious about, because I think the whole thing has been, some of it is legit. There are comorbidities that take place that impact people's health, but a lot of people, especially the youth, people that are healthy, do the right things. This has been way overdone as far as I'm concerned. They could have very easily just paid people to deliver food and additional help to people that are afraid to leave their house. It should have been a personal choice issue. We should have adhered to the U.S. Constitution. Individuals that want to go into businesses with no mask should have had that right to do so. Businesses that don't want to have a mask policy should have a right to do so, and then basically only accept people that are okay with their decision not to wear masks. That's what America should have looked like during this entire shutdown. But unfortunately, we had our rights trampled on. They cut the schools. They shut the schools down. They cut down any of our First Amendment rights with free religion, freedom of protest, freedom to petition our government, freedom of speech. And so this whole thing gets under my skin. And when I read this stuff, I think the CDC stands for, carnival. Let's see if we can come up with something on the fly here. I don't know. I think it's a bankrupt organization. I think it needs to be shut down and start over personally after all the complete mess that they've oversaw in the past year or 2 years. So anyways, some other news that's relevant to the average American. The Visa is going to be investigated for debit card practices. MasterCard, I would hope, would be next. Those two companies, which were created by banks, folks. Here's an interesting thing while we're on talking about Visa and talking about MasterCard. So these companies were created by our banks in this country, and they essentially take a toll on everything. They don't have a lot of employees, but they have a technology that allows them to take a transaction fee, like what the cost is to do the initial transaction, plus a percentage of the transaction, okay? So now it makes money those two ways, even though the cost of technology has continued to plummet, and there should be a marginal cost of zero if you believe in free capitalism or free markets and so forth. Free markets, competition should have driven that fee down. It didn't happen, folks. So then you should be asking yourself a question. Why didn't it happen if we have so-called competition? Okay, it's because they own the legislators. They pretty much lobby. They have these rules written in a way that benefits them at the expense of consumers. And how does this impact you, you might ask? And what I would tell you is the way it impacts you is you pay more to purchase things because of these higher fees, because, businesses have to absorb those costs. So if the fee was only 0.1%, as probably what it should be. If you think about commissions on stocks, how much they've plummeted over the years, credit card companies still charge as though we're in the time of the 1970s where commissions used to be 1% of a stock transaction. Well, credit card companies have not changed anything, and this is what I find so disturbing, is that they're still charging full rates even though the technology has allowed them to significantly cut rates, and they have not done so. Okay, so now I want you to think about your grocery store, your local grocery store. I want you to think about Target or Walmart if you go to those stores. Now Walmart owns over 1 billion square feet of real estate, 1 billion square feet. And Walmart having literally millions of employees. They have millions of employees that work for Walmart, and they basically do over $1 billion a day in revenue. They pay property taxes on all those buildings. They pay all these income taxes for, they pay Social Security, all these types of things. They do all this work to ship goods. Now, whether or not where they're buying the goods from, that's a different story. But in general, Walmart creates a lot of value for society. And, historically, it has helped keep inflation in check. Right or wrong, their policies of being so competitive on bargaining, bargaining for the best prices from manufacturers has helped the American consumer very significantly over time. Okay, so how much does Walmart make for all the work? They manage $400 billion. They do all this. They have 2 million employees. They hustle, just like a lot of small businesses in this country that maybe make 2 to 3%, 5% on their business. That's it. Walmart makes 2.6 to 2.7% for every sale. So 2.7 cents for every dollar for doing all the work, folks. What does Visa make? What does MasterCard make? All in, they probably make 2.5%. So especially if there's rewards cards. So Visa and MasterCard, they don't do squat. They don't organize the labor. They don't schedule. They don't pay. They don't make sure that the goods are coming from different parts of the world, different parts of the country on the trucks, logistics, nothing. They just take a toll, and they make as much money on the revenue line per transaction as though they were the ones that were designing and taking all this risk. Now, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, Bobby, they have to have credit people there, and they got to make sure that they justify charging 17% on their credit cards. Yeah, Visa. First of all, credit cards, Visa and MasterCard, they usually do this 2.5% charge. They collect it on behalf of other companies that hold the receivables. So credit cards, you got to remember when you do something, you go charge something, and you spend $1,000 on your credit card. Visa doesn't necessarily. Visa, I don't believe they carry receivables. I got to double check if they change their business model. They just take the toll. They help process the fees. You got to pay them a fee. Chase, Wells Fargo, those other companies, they're the ones that make money off of holding the receivables. That they're the ones that make money off of the balances of, you charging, you basically, paying them a cut because there's going to be some people that default on Visa, default on their Visa card, or they're going to file bankruptcy and they're going to be out the money. That's who takes the credit risk, is who makes all that extra money. But I do not believe that Visa and MasterCard hold receivables. I think most of their revenue is strictly this fee, this processing fee. Now keep in mind, their profit margin jives with everything I'm saying. 55%, folks. 55%. So when Walmart makes 2.7 cents, the average restaurant in this country is lucky to make 3 to 5 cents. Visa makes 55 cents on every dollar. What did they do to justify that? They paid off some really corrupt legislators is what they did, including one by the name of Dick the Dirt Bin of Illinois. Dick Durbin has voted plenty of times to allow credit card companies to prosper at the expense of the American people. He happens to be the senator from Illinois that I think is a piece of dirt. He fits his name, Durbin. Is it Dirt Bin? Yeah, I think it's Dirt Bin. He's one of these characters that has done a lot of damage to the American consumer under this false guise of holding himself out to be a Democrat. He's for the people, right? Same guy that's against the U.S. Constitution publicly. So this guy is a piece of work, but he probably had some machines help him. Visa pays him with the machines, helps him pay some donations, I guess, and then he has other machines that maybe help him, with the voting process, I guess. Maybe we should look into that. But anyways, when I see this kind of news, it gets under my skin because this is not what capitalism is, folks. This is called cronyism. This is called corruption at work. This is called corporatism gone awry at the expense of the American people. And I think we, the people, should go after all these companies and expose the ones that are behaving in a fraudulent manner that try to justify their actions as free market. And it's not free market. It's rigged market. And so that's just my 2 cents. I do not have an opinion on whether or not to buy Visa or MasterCard. I have no such opinion. I'm strictly talking about how they make money and why I think that the way they make money should be investigated. And I'm extremely pleased that the Department of Justice is investigating how they make money, because it's been bothering me for a very long time, if you haven't noticed. Okay. Bernanke wannabe Powell, he came out and said he's going to do what he can to calm things down. Maybe that's why the market rebounded a little bit. Once again, I don't think he knows what he's doing. I think that he's out to lunch and he's doing things on behalf of more powerful people that are making a lot more money from interest rates going up and the volatility that's creating by creating losses in portfolios and so forth. But that's the way it is. I mean, we have a Federal Reserve System, so until we the people figure out how to break up that cartel, we're stuck with it. So, like I said yesterday, it'd be nice if the Securities and Exchange Commission, if it wasn't corrupted. I don't know if it is. I'm not saying it is, folks. I know the SEC regulates me, so I'm not suggesting it's corrupted. I'm hoping that it's an extremely efficient, well-run, righteous organization that's looking on behalf of all shareholders and making sure they do their work. So let's hope the SEC is guided by strong principles of justice, justice for all. Okay, Fed decides against extending the rule that allowed banks to relax capital levels. This came out shortly after this morning. So this is a supplemental leverage ratio, which allowed banks to exclude treasury and deposits from their reserve requirements. Now, this would basically, by this decision, I think it was expiring by the end of the month. They put this into place because of the virus that took place last year. There was a need for cash that is why the Federal Reserve put this program into place. And then, I think that this rule will force the banks to put up more money, which means they create less lending in the economy, which could possibly mean that rates will go up. So there's a good chance that this rule was leaked, possibly. I'm not saying it was, but given how much rates went up yesterday, and given the fact that this rule came out today, SEC, it's your time to shine. Maybe you guys should look into whether or not someone was tipped off on this rule, that this would hurt the banks and this would drive up interest rates because you're basically increasing the cost of money for all the banks and the financial institutions in the system. It's a heck of a coincidence that this article comes out today and the Fed makes this announcement one day after interest rates spiked 10 basis points, 0.1% yesterday, and caused a massive sell-off in all asset classes. When I say massive by daily volatility standards, the Nasdaq was down 3%. And it rallied 75 bips today, but you get the idea. The regulators, I wish they would look at the news flow as it was coming out and take the time to look into the very companies that are profiting from said behavior in real time. I think we have the data sets. We have enough participants. We should create a whistleblower statute. Let people say, hey, there's another one. Here's another one hot off the presses. But keep in mind, folks, there's a couple instances where I was thinking about reporting some things into the SEC about bad market behavior. They do not let you do it anonymously. Okay? I think I've turned in a couple things one or two times where I've contacted the regulators when I witnessed bad behavior, and I've had to put my name down and where I worked and all this other stuff. And all I could tell you is I'm not a big fan of a whistleblower program that makes you say who you are, because that kind of defeats the whole purpose of being the whistleblower. So anyways, all I can tell you is this is an organization that's supposed to be protecting investors. But if people that see something wrong in the industry want to report it, but they can't report it anonymously, is that a good idea? I think everybody can make a decision for themselves. Personally, I think it is not a good idea. So I think it's kind of bogus that they handle things that way. So let me see here. Happy Friday. I'm just reading a couple quick little comments. Crony capitalism is alive and well in the United States. And, so that's that. So with that being said, it's 4:25. Sorry I was a little late, folks. I had to finish up a call. And I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. And, please keep digging. Keep looking into how the companies that you buy things from share your values, how they make money. Maybe over time, I'm going to explain all of this to everybody. I can dissect how every company in this country makes money, folks. I've been doing it for over 20 years. I like to go under the hood and see how much they're making per transaction, what their cost structure looks like, and all that jazz. And maybe it will help bring some new competition into the fold. Now, what would be better than that? I would love to do my part to help restore competition to this so-called free market system that we live in. And, I think that would be fun in the process. I might not gain any new followers from a certain group, but so be it. So you guys have a wonderful day. I will be back at 8:30 if you want to join me for my evening broadcast. I think I am into, let me see here. I gotta check the tape, folks. I am into day number 27 of the greatest book ever written. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, that is the Bible. It is the greatest book ever written. Even if you're not religious, I highly recommend you check it out sometime. Unbelievable stories that are incredibly powerful for you to think about in how you live your life every day. I think it'll make you a much happier and better person. And I think that everybody around you will be thankful as well if you take the time to look into that book and see how it might apply to your life. So thank you so much, everybody. And I will talk to you soon. Thanks.